Hey everybody, welcome back. Today is day 198 on a carnivore diet. My last update was day 147, and I said I was going to go to day 180. Next update, I had 21 days in this last 51 days of having a terrible sinus infection where I actually needed medication. I was miserable, but prior to being afflicted with the sinus infection, after my last video, I kind of went back and reviewed what I had said regarding some folks that were claiming this is a rich man's diet and it's not working and this and that. And I was so you got to sometimes if there's an obstacle, you got to go through it and just that kind of talk. Because I went through the fire just like most of us have, and it was hard, but it made me think. I've been watching other folks that come up in my Instagram feeds and they do these short clips of what I eat on a carnivore diet, what I eat in a day. Now, here I am. I'm basically eliminating food, just like most of you. You're going through that initial phase, and then you're learning that intermittent fasting starts to happen pretty much naturally if you're satiating and getting fat adapted, and you're starting to, the elimination part of the diet is really taking over. And I'm watching folks who may or may not have, I don't know, I didn't follow all their histories and go back and look at a lot of their videos, but these folks are in really good shape. Probably their ideal weight. They may not have been obese. They may have been. They may have only needed to maybe shed 30 pounds, or maybe they just started the diet. But again, because to me, the side effect of doing this is the weight loss. And these folks are eating 3 times a day, and they're eating substantial portions. They're not talking about doing any exercise or being in the gym or walking or doing any kind of hiking or running, any kind of training, any kind of anything. And I'm like, well, that must be what some of those fad diets would, when you get to let's just say, like the fat smash diet. It was basically elimination, and then you would reintroduce things. It's kind of like a lot of the diets were. Scarsdale diet, those kind of things. And once you get through the major portion of it, they kind of teach you how to what they call a maintenance. I'm sitting there and thinking, these folks are eating 3 times a day. They're eating some pretty substantial portions. Not talking about any kind of exercise or any, supplementing anything. And they look like they're in really good shape. And I'm saying that must be maintenance. That must be what maintenance is like on a carnivore diet. If you're not able to, let's just say, because I know for some folks it's hard. It's hard to be OMAD. It's hard to be even just 2 meals a day for some folks. And I said, you know what? I need to pull some levers and push some buttons now. Let me do this while I'm in the middle. Let me see if I ate 3 meals a day, if it affected me as far as the weight. And I'm here to tell you, outside of that 21 days where I was sick and I was, listen, miserable, you know, when you're blowing vanilla pudding out of your nose, and I'm sorry to be graphic like that, and it hurts and there's pain behind your eyeball and you can feel it in your teeth, you just don't care. So I was eating my chicken noodle soup, starve a fever, feed a cold, that whole thing, the comfort thing. So I had my, a couple of days where I had chicken noodle soup, a couple of days where I had a slice of bread. But even then, the ill effects were the hangover, like feeling like you had, putting sugar back in your system, carbs in your system. I didn't have any ill effects of weight gain. I am the exact same weight today, 51 days later, than when my last video posted. Now, to me, that's a great sign because let's just say you hit your goal weight and then you decide you want to go on vacation and you can stay away from everything else and you just stick to a carnivore plan, but you celebrate a little bit and you have 3 meals a day, all carnivore, all proper, the proper human diet foods that we should be eating. You're probably not going to gain any weight. I haven't gained any weight. So I did have a period during that 21 days where, I'm sick. I don't know. It could have been physiological due to the infection where there was like a 1 pound up and down. I'm still the same weight. So did I slow my progress down? Yes. But did I learn something now that says when I get to the finish line, which again to me is still 190 pounds. Excuse me. If I ate 3 times a day, but the right foods or the foods that we're supposed to be eating this way, am I going to gain weight? Probably not. Here's 51 days. I haven't gained anything. Again, just that little blip on that 21 days of being ill. And that was it. So I figured, you know what? Let's post this video. I know I promised a video at day 180, which now puts me 18 days behind, and I'm behind because of that sinus infection and taking antibiotics. That was the worst. I hate taking antibiotics because they have other effects. But I needed to get rid of it. It didn't clear up on its own. And finally ended up going back to the doctor's office. My doctor is officially retired, which I thought he would be. Going to this it's basically a service that offered, there's one main doctor and there's 2 nurse practitioners there. And somebody's always listening in the room. There's somebody that's, there's a computer in the room and I guess they're transcribing or taking notes. I don't like that. I want to go back to a doctor that has more of a, it's that homey, office kind of feel. So I went, she prescribed the meds. I took the meds. I felt terrible. I really felt terrible. And the initial, it cleared up pretty quickly after the meds kicked. But geez, the combination of the sinus infection and the pressure and the pain combined with the effects that the antibiotics gave me, stomach cramps, bloating, a fair share of diarrhea, and that's the first time I ever experienced that. But it was also the first time I ever took, what was it, erythromycin, azithromycin, Z-Pack, whatever that is. That tells you how many times I've been sick. I don't know jack diddly about antibiotics. I knew I needed them. It was just far too long. I was suffering. It was tough to go to, even though I work from home, just sitting in front of a computer, the eye strain already from the pressure. It was brutal. But through that 21 days, there was, the setback, which extended this now to day 198 instead of day 180. But I went through that period of saying, you know what, let me see if this is the maintenance thing. If I wanted to eat 3 times a day and do it for an extended period, does it really negatively affect my weight loss? And the answer is no. Now that's me. So I'm the exact same weight. And now that I've gone through that, I think it's time. Especially now, spring has sprung here. We're finally into May. Today's May 1st, actually, and I've already been, I don't want to say scheming, but putting some ducks in a row, which is another thing that I did during this 50 days that you haven't seen a video from me. Getting the garage in order to do some of the garage things and those kind of videos and things that I'll be able to do out there, and some stuff in the house, and the weather's getting warmer, so the activity level will increase, and now it's really time to do an intentional increase, of exercise. So I've started and stumbled before, because my headspace was, it was just like I had enough to deal with. Just trying to admit to myself, I have to get off the standard American diet. I have to do some things for myself. So the blood labs and everything that are already, I've already reported on them. I've got that in a good, that's in a good space. So again, my next, I'm pretty sure I mentioned it in the last video, or maybe the one even before that, next blood lab, I was actually supposed to have a blood lab 2 days ago as a follow-up to this nurse practitioner. I said, you know what, I don't like the way they do business now. I canceled the appointment. I didn't even go. So I'm going to keep to my original plan. And after my anniversary, which is October 16th, I'm going to do the next blood lab. So I'm not going to get crazy with this and just constantly report, because I don't think it's necessary. But now I've already done this regimen that I think I'm going to put myself on. It's 2 days a week of intentional either mobility, whether I get out and hike, You do at least a mile, 2 miles, or uh, lifting heavy things and putting them down. Just staying home, using my dumbbells, some of the resistance bands, doing some, just self, your own weight, just doing squats and coming up with a number. So I've already got day one in the books. That was Monday, and I will probably exercise again on Thursday. And now back to either OMAD or 2 meals. I think I'm going to try at least a 30-hour water fast. I'm not ready for a dry fast, but I think I can go and do a 30-hour water fast in this next series or stretch of time. And now I'm going to focus on the weight loss. Outside of that 21 days over this last 51 that I've been absent, I still feel like I'm getting better as far as the joint thing, the joint pain and all of that still hasn't crept back up on me. I've played disc golf quite a few times in the last 51 days. I'm still having great experience there after I get done. I'm not having any pain. I'm not having any residual pain the next day or being sore. Even after this little bout of exercise that I did 2 days ago, I had really no soreness. I had some soreness in my upper shoulders from doing some standing flies with dumbbells. And I think that's expected because when you're somebody who sits at a computer all day and you start getting that rolled over shoulder and now you're trying to do the reverse, I had a little bit of a muscle. No big problems, so to speak of, and really no ill effects of this shoulder. As you know, if you've watched the earlier videos, there's a partially torn rotator cuff that now has subsided pretty much, maybe about 80%. The way it feels playing disc golf, throwing a disc all through the countryside. So the inflammation problem is it's not magically disappeared, it's just disappeared. And I've reported that already, and I'm still feeling, it feels like it's still getting a little bit better. Like I had some pains in, my thumbs or overusing my hands. I would get soreness. It seems to be still getting increasingly better. So I don't think I'm out of the woods in regards to the overall health and the way movement goes and how soreness goes and inflammation goes. I think that's going to continue. But now I'm just going to focus on the weight loss. I feel that 51 days of doing that 3 meals a day and not seeing any weight gain whatsoever kind of gives me a renewed sense of when I get to the end, when I hit that number that I want to get to on the scale, I obviously can't stray and go back to standard American diet, 3 meals a day, because then you'll be back at 285 pounds, which is where I started. But if I wanted to eat 3 meals of, I wanted to eat 3 meals of ribeye and eggs, probably not going to. Now, can that change as you age? Maybe. I don't know. And you hit a certain plateau? Maybe that does. But right now, in this last 51 days, it has not been an issue. So it gives me this nice comfort level knowing that, listen, when I get to the end of the rainbow here for my goal weight, if I decide, or even if I just go, my social life kicks off in a different way, or, my friends are getting together more often and we're having barbecues or parties or whatever, and I maintain myself and eating only carnivore, proper human diet foods, and I sat in 3 times a day, it's probably not going to have an ill effect. I did it for just now 51 days straight. I have not gained any weight. Only that little flux when I was during that 21 days of feeding that cold and really putting some carbs back in my system. But it wasn't like 5 pounds, it was a pound. Up and down through 21 days. And here I am, same weight. So I'm going to focus on intentional exercise 2 days a week for sure. The incidental exercise will really be disc golf because that's weather permitting. So there will be that extra day of, that's just movement. That's not lifting anything. That's not really, it's not cardio by any sense of or any stretch of the imagination, but it's a nice walk. and you're hooking a bag over your shoulder that weighs about maybe 8 or 10 pounds, and you might be walking about a total of maybe 2 or 3 miles, depending on what course. So that's going to stay again, weather permitting, and then we'll see how I do. But I'm again not going to just come in and check in and report on weight loss. I will probably be more frequent with the carnivore videos though going forward because I don't see what else I could possibly test. I don't see what any levers I could pull and jump. I've said it in some of my other videos. 1 and 1 has to equal 2 for me. So I thought about it and said, well, if you want to be the guy that makes the statement, well, the diet didn't fail you, you failed the diet, and then you see people that are eating 3 times a day on a carnivore diet, well, then you should try it. You should actually pull those levers and see what it does to you because anything could happen. And there's nothing out of the realm of possibility. Like after I got to my goal weight, maybe I would have started eating just naturally, eating 3 meals a day, just carnivore food. And I'm glad I know now. I'm glad I know now that in 51 days I haven't gained any weight. I haven't had any ill effects. It hasn't interrupted my gut health. I haven't felt any different. You know, Still the same type of movement in regards to number twos. They weren't really any more frequent. And consistency was, after you get over that hump, it was still good. So again, I'm glad I pulled those levers now. I went through 51 days, and now I can say to myself with real extreme confidence that at the end of the the end of the road, the maintenance, even if you sat in a couple extra times a day, I literally ate 3 meals a day for 51 days with no weight gain. So that makes me feel good. That might be something that maybe some folks need to know. Maybe something that you never thought about. And there you go. But again, that's what happened with me. Your results may vary. If you started eating 3 meals a day again, and even though they're carnivore based, maybe you might gain weight. I don't know. I didn't. So that makes me feel good. And it also makes me feel good to now go back to the regularly scheduled program because it was expensive. I was buying more, during the middle of the week. I was going, oh man, I have to go to the store. I have to shop. So that experiment of 51 days of doing that, it hit me. It hit me pretty well too. So it'd be nice to get back to the OMAD or maybe just 2 meals, like a light, when I break my fast. It was always something light. It may have been, maybe a slice of, say, the meatloaf that was left over for the day before, or maybe, you know, 5 or 6 tablespoons of, the carnivore chili I made the night before. So I was just putting something in my system. It wasn't necessarily something that would have made a huge spike in my insulin and my hormonal levels. So twice a day seemed ideal. I was still losing weight, 2 meals a day. So I definitely, though, I want to make an attempt at least a 30-hour water fast during one of these little stretches. And I'm still getting my head mentally geared up for that. I don't think I'll have a problem with it. But I want to see what that affects. I've seen what the reverse is, eating 3 meals a day. Well, gee, no weight gain. Well, now let's kick off the autophagy a little bit more, and at least squeeze one 30-hour fast, maybe just once a month. If I feel really good and start getting those things that equate to like the runner's high, where you push through that, you break down that whatever it is, and you can just go a little bit extra, and you get that adrenaline rush. Maybe fasting becomes, maybe more than once a month. Maybe it's twice a month. I don't know, but I'm going to pull those levers now and push those buttons. In a better state of all of this, and that's just the journey that I'm on. So, take that for what it's worth in regards to eating the 3 meals a day and not gaining any weight. Maybe you want to try it. Maybe you don't want to try it yet at all, or maybe you just feel comfortable knowing, like I feel comfortable knowing it now, because the people I was watching that were eating these 3 meals a day, they weren't overweight. And I'm like, well, what happens if somebody who's still overweight, even though they're eating a carnivore plan, what happens to them if they ate 3 meals like that every day? Well, thank goodness for me. I think I would have stopped if I saw weight increase, because it was tough to lose it, because you're still mentally, you're like, gee, around this time of day I probably would have been having a snacky snack. And once you get that in your head, that can give you the false sense of hunger, and you have to break that. So I wanted to say I'm still overweight. I haven't hit my goal weight yet. Let me see what happens if I screwed up and just ate 3 meals a day of carnivore based food. Is just going to be negative. So I pushed it to 51 days, and here I am. And if I was upset about it, wouldn't have made the video. And if I was upset about it, I would have stopped eating 3 meals a day. Probably after, if it was 10 days in and I gained 5 pounds, well, obviously this isn't working. So I'm happy to know that for me, the way it worked for me, and hopefully if, down the road when I hit my goal weight, if I want to do that, it's going to be exactly the same. It'll be a maintenance thing. I shouldn't. At least I don't think so. And maybe when I hit my goal weight, I'll do that again. I'll do a stretch where I do 3 meals a day and see what the effects are. Something to report. It's information, because as much information that we can get about this from different people, it's only going to help. So that's all I got to report. Hopefully my next carnivore update is sooner. And I'll definitely report the weight and how I'm doing with the exercise. If I'm having any ill effects bodily, physiologically, if I'm feeling strains or muscle pain or anything like that. So thanks for tuning in. I know it's been a while, but I'm still here. Unfortunately, that 21 days put me behind a little bit. So thanks for liking, sharing, subscribing, and I will see you in the next video.